Hello everyone, welcome back again. First and foremost, who don't know me, I am Jose Falvi, a founder of MADCAPT Limited, which is basically Amazon service-based agency that help brand to scale without Google-driven systems. But today we have a really special guest on our episode, and she is going to share a really informative insight about Amazon product packaging and designing. So before wasting any time, let's get to invite our great guest, Miss Kitty Lee. Hey Kitty, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, perfect. So, Kitty, let's start with your brief introduction, how you start your journey at Amazon industry and how it's been going on so far.
Right, so I started my journey a very long time ago, and it's just because of my love for packaging and design. And I was a teenager, and I just loved it. And I started in a packaging factory for makeup, actually makeup brands for Estee Lauder and Aramis and Clinique. But from that, I studied graphic design at university, and then straight into London. I've been working in London. Well, I was working for 15, 16 years before I set up my own business, but I was working for retail brands. So Ted Baker, being a fashion retail brand, helped open stores, globally. So obviously the graphic design side of things and the marketing side of things, and then I was freelancing for other agencies, and then landed another job at Kafkistan as well. So again, similar job. I was managing a graphic design team, recruiting and training them, and sort of doing all the marketing campaigns and materials. And I just loved it. And then I kind of lost the love a little bit. I had a little boy and decided actually I'm going to take some time out, and then reassessed what I want to do. And I kind of came back to it. I started learning to sell on Amazon, actually, to sell FBA. And that's sourcing products, creating your own products, designing it, and then getting it to market. And I loved it. And what I was missing and craving was the learning and development side of things. So 7 years on, I'm here. I have my own business. I set up to work on branding and packaging design. So I've been doing that for the last 5-6 years, and I love it.
Yeah, perfect. Great background. You have a long time, a long journey from your teenagers, and now you are actually working on your own brand, on your own agency. So let's start with the basic, or the most popular question: why Apple product is most different from others? What the psychology the Apple brand has using for their product packaging and designing? Do you think it's behind of size there is some emotional connection with customer, or it's just a psychology behind it? How you can describe it?
Well, absolutely. There's an emotional connection, absolutely. And the Apple brand is classic, and everyone uses Apple as an example, but I love it myself personally. And it is that connection you have. It's the simplicity and the status of it, and it's the experience that customers get from the actual brand and the products. And I think they've created something quite timeless, with the packaging and the product as well. And it hasn't really changed that much over the decades. They refine it. And I think it's like the clean and minimalist kind of aesthetics that people sort of are drawn to. And Apple have a consistent tone and a visual language. They are consistent throughout. There's not a lot they've changed over the years. And I think their products are quite intuitive to use as well. So I use Apple products, from design, actually. Since I was at university, I've been using Apple to design things on applications. And I love the iPhone as well. And I think it is that connection, that brand experience. I've bought into it. And I think that's where everyone else loves as well.
Perfect explanation. So, let's go with Amazon product and packaging. One seller starts their first brand, when their seller are going to launch their first product, where should they need to invest their most of money for the side of their product photography, or the side of their product packaging, or their product designing, and how they make an extreme level of product packaging, when customer open that product, so they amaze it how they build a connection for their packaging. So how do you have any practical insight about it?
There's loads actually when it comes to obviously Amazon, and obviously firstly, you need to set aside a budget. So if you're an Amazon seller, you need to put some budget aside for the design side of packaging, as well as the packaging itself. So you have to put that aside because it's really important. Now, customers go into the Amazon store. It's like going into any other store, but it is online. So it's really important that your product stands out from your competitors and has some sort of differentiation, that you can be better than your competitor and have something to draw in your customers into your brand and want them to be repeat buyers as well. So on the actual Amazon store itself, you have to have a consistent tone and story and brand voice as well. So the messaging that you have on your A+ content, to your brand store, and all the way down to your listings, the way you talk to your customer and the messaging you put across needs to translate onto the packaging as well, and the product design, and across all marketing channels. It has to be consistent. And so, that's from the online side of things. And obviously, once they get the product, you want it to be, you want them to have that unboxing experience. You want them to be wowed as well. I mean, it doesn't work for every single product because there's so many different types of Amazon sellers. So, you might be selling a toothbrush. It's not particularly sexy having a seller's toothbrush, but you can still create some sort of brand visual and have some sort of impact through the packaging. It could be really bright colors and some bold messaging and maybe quirky lines that you're actually talking to the customer. So you can do it that way. And I've seen, toilet roll brands, loo roll brands that have created something really amazing, and it's like, wow, it's just toilet roll, but they've created something, and they created a brand that really resonates with the customer with some cheeky tone of voice as well. So it's really important that you can reach the customer in your messaging. So whether it's through an insert, whether it's on the box itself, on the packaging, you really need to think about that. And again, like I said, budget for it.
Perfect, perfect. So as you mentioned here, you need to build a consistency of your all Amazon brand catalog. So how do you define the brand identity versus a brand visual, good looking visual? How you can describe how to build a brand identity in your all over catalog while you are doing your product packaging or design?
So it's really important when you're creating a brand, and this is important, especially as you grow. So I know a lot of sellers start with one product and that's it. And they think, oh, that's it, that's my brand. And then a couple of years down the line, I want to add another product and I want to add something else. And they don't think about the bigger picture. So it's really important to have brand guidelines in place to create that identity firstly, and have that brand vision to grow from the very get-go, from the beginning. So if you're an Amazon seller now and you don't have that, make sure you put it in place, because as you grow, you're going to outsource. And the designers that you outsource to, the videographers, the photographers, the marketing team, the social media team, they need to understand what your brand is all about and what the identity is. And if they don't understand the tone, the messaging, the personality of your brand, it's going to be mixed. And it's putting down all those visual aspects like the logo, the color palette, and the fonts and the typography choices. You have to have that in a brand book or a brand guide somehow to sort of have that in place as you grow it as a brand.
Perfect, perfect. Very great explanation. I totally understand it. How important it is to build a brand identity when you start your brand for one product, or you wanted to build your all catalog from that particular identity. So let's move on the one more question, which is I think it is very important. What do you think the most seller or most brand are doing the most costly mistake for designing their product or doing their branding on Amazon? What the most common mistake you have seen in your throughout the career while working on the big brand or small brand?
I think the most common mistake I've seen with the smaller brands are that they've rushed it. They've rushed the logo design. They've rushed the branding side of things. They've rushed the packaging. And it's like, and it's evident, you see it. And it's like, well, you actually designed that logo yourself. And a lot of Amazon brand owners said, yeah, I actually did. I designed it myself. And, all they pay very low money for, a designer to design something that actually isn't a brand. It's just the logo. And that's what they're stuck with. and then they trademark it, and then they have this, and it's really hard to unpick, you know, the things that the mistakes that they've made. So it's really important to get that right in the first place. And, you know, that's one of the biggest mistakes is thinking that the logo is the brand and I can work from that, and then choosing your favorite colors and not doing any market research or really understanding your customer or target audience. So that's the second one, actually, is not understanding your customer. You might have a product and you think, I'm going to target everybody. So when you're messaging your images, your marketing campaigns on social media, it's not getting through, it's not consistent, and you're just selling to everybody and anybody. And it won't get noticed because you're talking to everybody, and you have to have a tone of voice that let's chat. I mean, it's like making friends. Yeah, you go to a networking event or you go to meet new friends. Say you're at college, you resonate with those people that have the same connection with you. They have the same interests as you. So you have to make sure that you're talking to that friend like a customer, you know, the customer like a friend, you know. So it's having that tone and that connection. So it's really important. And that's a mistake that I see also.
Yeah, that's the right thing. Was big brand like we can talk about before. The Apple has used their customer psychology to connect their target audience. So you need to clarify what the target audience we have and how we can design according to them. That's a great explanation. I love it. So let's go one of my favorite question, which is uh, whenever I see a brand, two different brands. First is a minimalist brand, second is a luxurious brand, and the third one is a simple brand. So I don't really understand it. I don't understand it. What the brand have a behind psychology to creating this type of brand identity on the market? What they have think about it? Can you tell me how your experience for that brand and give me some more secret insight about it?
Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, we see luxurious brands, luxury brands all over the place, and we know all the really high end luxury brands, and they all look very similar. If you walk down a high street and you think, actually, it's very just black and white, the logo is very just text, and it's nothing that they're not very different. Actually, the font choice might be different, but it's quite minimal. And, you know, the way they differentiate themselves is through their products and their packaging. So they use different types of materials, custom made materials as well. They have different tactile finishes. So maybe the bag or the packaging that they use is completely different to what a high street brand might use as well. They do invest the money to do that. And I guess they might have additional things, so like pullouts or extra leaflets or things that make it feel extra special. So if you're having that unboxing experience, that is the kind of thing that the luxury brands will give you, and we all buy into that, think, oh wow, that's why we're paying these high prices. But it you know, that's where luxury comes in, and they can afford to spend a little bit more on the luxury side of things. And when you talk about simple, so simple design is still considered design, actually. It's not basic. Simple is still considered. So creating something simple, but not luxurious. I mean, luxury design can look simple as well. So there is an element of simplicity and minimalist as well. But simple is using clean lines, minimal graphics, and again, just using practical materials. It's very similar, but you're pitching to a different market. You don't have to use all those embossing, all those gold foil finishes and extra bows and ribbons or whatever you're going to use on your packaging. The simple side of things is you can still make it look luxurious if you want to, but not having too many things into it. But you know, I know for a fact that luxury do invest more into their products and branding.
Perfect. Great. So let's go on the Amazon side, and I would like to ask you the real life examples you have in your past experience. Whatever brand come to you, and you can give them the great pathway to improve their product designing or packaging. Any real life examples you would like to share with us?
So I did mention actually some branding mistakes that Amazon sellers have, and actually that is the case for some, not all of my clients, some of my clients actually, and they think, actually, I need to have a rebrand. And I'll use one example of not a mistake, but one company came to me and they were referred to me actually by somebody. So I looked at their branding, I looked at their product, and the product's great. Their branding was actually good. The design of it was actually good. And I actually said, well, you actually don't need rebranding. It's great. Nothing I see here needs rebranding. So they went away thinking, oh, that's refreshing. I turned them away. I said, I can't really help you unless you want to change a few things, but in general their branding was good. So they said, that's really refreshing. I didn't sell them something just to say, oh, actually you need rebranding. So they went away actually quite happy. They didn't have to spend any more money. But the clients that I have previously that are Amazon sellers, I've had one particular case where they launched a product, the one product, and the brand name was related to the product. And over time, they wanted to expand. So they've gone into a completely different category, actually two different categories. And whereas that one product using that same name related to that product didn't fit with these two new categories. So that's where the mistake was. And she didn't know how to unpick it. So I was there to problem solve for her, the particular client. And I said, we have to change the name. You can keep the name of the current product. We'll make that the hero product, call that the name, and it has to come under the umbrella, the brand umbrella. So it has to come into that. And then your other categories can fit into that using the umbrella name, but the hero products can keep its own name because, again, she had already trademarked it and, it was a lot of unpicking to do. So that's where I think, a lot of sellers make mistakes. And that's one of the examples I've helped my client.
Perfect. So let's go when whatever the product packaging or designing, basically on Amazon Marketplace, there are most several things when the seller firstly need the sales. They need to boost their sales, whether it is advertising, whether it is put product mark, product packaging or designing. The customer conversion rate on the marketplace is totally in the other side. Like if we wanted to convert our customer, we need to make a good visual on Amazon listing. We need to make good designing on Amazon listing. So how you can describe when we can put our product packaging design on our CTR image or not? If we can put our packaging design on CTR image, so we must need to put our keyword on that packaging or not, because we have our standard. Whenever you are doing packaging, basically Amazon Marketplace, you must need to put your keyword on your packaging. So the algorithm will boost your ranking while show your keyword on your packaging on your first image. So how you can describe this particular things?
From what I could gather of what you said, I think how do you boost firstly, that on the listing, you don't necessarily have to have your packaging on there unless it lends itself to add any sort of sale to your or any value to the customer that's looking at it. You don't necessarily have to show the packaging because the customer is actually buying the product. They rather see how it functions, how practical it is, and how it's being used. So having your visuals, you should have someone using the actual product. I've seen a lot of listings where they don't have anyone on there. It's just the product, and that's not helpful to the customer that's buying. They can't put the idea of the scale of it in practice, so they can't see how it's being used, and they just want to relate to it. So having a packaging on it, I don't think it's necessary unless it really we think will help sell it, because I when I buy off Amazon, I don't particularly look at the packaging. I look at the actual product itself. So firstly, you don't have to worry too much, and if you really want to add it into the actual listing, you put it on the last image. It's not important. It's not going to make you extra sales. It might be even a surprise to the customer that receives it, because you're going to have the brand touch to it, the brand messaging, and the tone that you're going to give the customer. So it's almost like a surprise as well. So it's unnecessary when you put QR codes or things on there. That's an added bonus. So that should be on the packaging anyway as well. So you can have some interactive element on the packaging as well. So I think it doesn't necessarily have to go on the listing. And I just wouldn't, I don't think it really needs to be there.
Okay. Okay. Great
I hope
point of view.
I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, you answered the question. It's not necessary to put your packaging on the CTR image, or not necessary to put keyword. That's a great opinion. I would appreciate that. So let's you can share a really informative insight on this episode. Let's warm up this with our last question, which is, if a seller who are burnt out for their Amazon product packaging or designing, customer will return for their, they never easily engage with their customer through their packaging. So what action list you can give them to do so when they wanted to rebrand or repackage their product? So
Yeah. Can you repeat that? Yes.
I would say, can you give a action list of that particular seller who wanted to rebrand or repackage their product design?
So someone who wants to repackage their or rebrand their packaging, yeah, or branding. I'm guessing you brought the branding side of thing. I mean, I think what I do tend to tell Amazon sellers is actually you might just need a refresh. It's not actually rebrand, because then if you've already got the customer base and you know who you're talking to, you don't need to rebrand it, because unless you actually want to talk to a completely new market, you might need to relook at rebranding, because it's everything from the character to the personality to the tone and consistency of the product. So you generally, I would say, just get a refresh and see what you can do. And I think brands evolve. So don't think that, oh my God, I need a rebrand, I'm going to change the logo, I'm going to change the packaging. You just generally need a refresh. You just need to reconnect and see where do you need to improve and where do you need to evolve. And I think that's what brands need to do. Unless you have a really bad brand and it really is not great, then we can look. You should look at that anyway. So yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Kitty, for being on the our show, and I would love to having you here. And we will see you, everyone. We will see you in the next episode. And have a great day, everyone. I would
Great.
like to add something here.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for having me on the show. And it's been lovely talking about branding and things I'm passionate about. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much again, Kitty, for being on our show. Have a great day, everyone. See you in the next episode.